There's also the story of how the Indian Army bailed out the British Empire during the First World War. Recently, Jodie East, curator from Brighton's Royal Pavilion, was in Kolkata, and she was here in the Victoria Memorial to research unknown facets of the pavilion that served as a military hospital for Indian soldiers during the war. A unique display is being planned as part of the centenary celebrations at the Royal Pavilion that intends to provide a fascinating account of how the Royal Palace was transformed into a military hospital in the seaside resort for wounded Indian soldiers serving on the Western Front. The Brighton commemorative exhibition is all about understanding the impact of war through personal stories. They are particularly keen to engage young people. As the First World War gets further from living memory, it's harder for young people to relate to the experiences and history of World War I, which was so important in shaping modern life as we know it today. In what may be a very exciting development, the Victoria Memorial and the Brighton Pavilion will jointly perhaps present a digital exhibition about the Indian soldiers who were treated in that hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you it will not be a regressive pastime to visit that exhibition or similar exhibitions that reveal new truths about our lives and people who inhabit the world around us. To me personally, it shows a very progressive mind of the current dispensation of this institution. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata. Now, may I request Dr. Kunal Sharkar to take the floor, please.
Mr. Chairman, sir, it would have been easier to understand and logically connect a 10-minute recitation from the Morse code in original compared to what our dear friend Ms. Sen just told us. And as a synopsis of what she said, I can only fall back on one of the greatest minds of recent times, none other than Oscar Wilde, who had said that learned ladies should always be listened to with the deepest of respect and never pretended to be understood. I have joined that queue. I'm so happy that she has commemoratively brought up the aspect of Second World War. Very good. This is a perfect example of a half-baked perception of history transported into current affairs. What the First World War could not achieve, what neither the Second World War could achieve, the Deutsche Bank has achieved it without distress. Poor fellow Hitler, if he abandoned all his tanks for a really strong Marx, by this time he would have had the whole of Europe from eating out of his hands as Angela Merkel is. So this is how commemorative anesthesia blurs out the present for the past. I am sure to visit the exhibition of the First World War, digital, non-digital, painting, song, dance, whatever format it is, but with one reservation is said, that the country whose participation in First World War you were referring to, this hallowed land of India, has still not made up its mind that whether the First World War is an event worth commemorating or not. The government of India and the historical archives of India are completely undecided. You ask your curator, she's going to authenticate this version. Then we come down the pecking order to Dr. Munshi. It's a great blessing that he did not teach history. I have now and then crossroads with a couple of characters from the Indian Institute of Management who were pretty thin on the social consciousness side. So much for the sociology contribution. But historically, perhaps they would have been a black hole. Because with his understanding of Easter, you know, one person who's terribly worried about the commemoration of Easter today is none other than a gentleman called Pope Francis. Because that man is desperately worried that with this blatant, a cattle-like commemorative of one festival of the other, of one event over the other, the Roman Catholic following is shrinking. Historically, the date stands to question. There is no corroboration that the crucifixion actually stood. So yes, we are in deep reverence of the fact. But has the mindless adherence to ceremonial performances added to the credibility of the Roman Catholic belief, church and numbers? I am sorry, Mr. Munshi, please email Pope Francis. He will let you know what his views on the subject are. Auschwitz, the mother of all disasters. And that too, he was not alone. He dragged Santayana into the field. Are you aware of the fact, the conflict in German society today? Are you aware of the fact that 6 million Germans had also lost their lives in the Second World War? Are you aware of the fact that there is a definite subaltern rising of the right wing in Germany because they are tremendously miffed about the fact that the German loss of life, whatever be the logic, whatever be the ethics behind it, 6 million lives lost in a country that has never been acknowledged in the historical perspective. So you are creating another set of Taliban, another set of European extremists who, if not today, but in the near future, the python is going to raise its heads. So before you oversimplify emotionally historical perspectives, please see history for what it is worth. Now, I had a bit of a difficult time to stitch up these 3 examples together in a span of 8 minutes. One was commemoration, second was regression, and third was the process of fossilization. I started thinking sometime yesterday till I ran into the election kind of bandwagon of the candidate from the Jadavpur constituency. I happen to work in an unfashionable part of the city. I had a look at him. He happens to be the Gardiner Professor of Oceanic History. He was wearing he was holding a photograph of a great Indian freedom fighter who's been dead and somersaulting in his grave many years ago because I believe some bits of chromosomes have been shared. The only ideological continuity between that freedom fighter and the great kind of all-encompassing Didi of today is neither of them believed in any kind of discussion or consensus. So he has been commemorating his chromosomes in a very regressive tendency going to the past, and the intellect of a Gardiner professor has been completely fossilized to that of a political automaton. So there was in front of me, being enacted today in the city, of what knee-jerk, subthalamic, cynical commemoration does for you. I would have told you another story about some fashionable Bengali dialect which is now getting on in the villages of Bankura. One patient from Bankura had come to me, Dada, amra to onek kichu shunlam, kintu ki bhasha bollo bolgo? আমি বললাম বালিগঞ্জের সঙ্গে যখন মিডলটন জয়েন্ট মিলে তখন একটা অদ্ভুত ভাষা তৈরি হয়, কেউ কেউ ওটা বলে থাকে, আমিও বুঝি না। So this is the cheap side of commemoration in front of your eyes. Victoria Memorial. Is it the right venue? You could not have chosen a better venue, Jayantula. Because right outside your gates, not you, some of your commemorative predecessors had thrown away the statue of Curzon and perhaps exchanged it for Aurobindo. Some other Britisher also got thrown away, I think in the southwest corner, to make way for Baghajoti. The trouble is, today's India, the India of 2014, is a little bit more like Curzon's India than Aurobindo's India. This is where we exist today, and this is the fact where commemoration blinds you to reality. There are times in lives